Hello and welcome back, and today we want to do a hardware review of the TS-253D. This is the brand new 2-bay from QNAP. It is a device that is the latest generation of their 53 series, and the 53D promises to give you more than any other 2-bay NAS in their history. And I've got to say, for the most part, I agree. I've already filmed my unboxing video, which has already got all the stuff gone through, and I'll highlight some of that in just a moment. But today's video, we want to answer three very important questions. Number one, how does this device compare with the 253BE, which is still currently available? So are you going to upgrade if you already own it, or should you buy that one instead of this one? Second thing I want to find out is this device a suitable upgrade on its predecessor in terms of how long we've been waiting, about 2.5, 3 years in some places? And thirdly, does it deserve your data? Because a number of you are now looking for a network attached storage solution for your family's photos, for your multimedia, for your business, for accessing stuff remotely, and trusting the right brand with your data is very, very important. And 2-bay devices are they're not as popular as 4-bays because of the RAID support, but 2-bays are a great entry point into any NAS series, any kind of brand, any kind of hardware, and therefore this is, chances are, a first NAS for a number of you, and you want to know, does it actually deserve to hold your data? So let's get straight into it. This device, 253D, arrives at around 500 NICA, including the VAT. Now again, including the VAT there is important because that is just a UK audience I'm talking to there, and of course different countries have different tax systems in place. So although right now, with tax, you're going to spend 500 quid on this, you might get it cheaper in other regions of the world, and hopefully I'll update that in the description in the corner. But for that, you are still getting one of the most capable 2-bays I've ever seen. The software from QTS is still tremendously on point, and I'm only going to touch on software in today's video because we've got a whole software overview of the entire 53D series coming soon, along with a 9-part beginner's guide. So although I will mention the software, I'm not going to go into too much detail. On top of that, this device arrives with hardware inside that is still greater in most regards than all of its predecessors. Still arriving with a Celeron, just like the units before it. It arrives with a J4125, which is a quad-core 2.0 GHz processor that can be burst up to 2.7 per core. It opens the door to DDR4 memory, arriving with 4 GB by default, which is a lovely beginner sum that goes up to 8 GB officially, and unofficially, as we've tested with Crucial Memory, 16 and 32 GB. But again, unofficial, might invalidate your warranty. Make sure you got your backups in place. What I'm saying is, this device has got a lot of hardware for a 2-bay NAS. Now, that CPU opens the door to AES-NI encryption. It opens the door to 4K and 1080p native transcoding and some of that in Plex. It opens the door to virtualization, Linux Station. Opens the door to surveillance with QVR Pro 8 camera licenses and supporting up to 40 to 80 cameras based on your storage and memory utilization. You can use webcams on this device instead of IP cameras, although you can of course use IP cameras. You've got Container Station to run micro virtual environments. You've got Linux Station to have your own VM that outputs over the network, over the internet, or over HDMI with a keyboard and mouse. This device has got a dedicated HDMI portal. It's got huge amounts of potential. Now, the hardware inside makes a lot of that possible, but we can't overlook the hardware on the outside as well. With the device arriving with LAN connections, we've got a couple of cables inside. We've got our external power cable there. We've got an external power brick that supports the device whilst it's in utilization. The device, although an external power brick, love them, and I know not everyone's in love with external power bricks, but I am. What I'm saying is, for a 2-bay, it might seem that the price tag's a little bit 4-bay, but there is so much going on inside this device. Now, is it perfect? No. There's a few bumps along the way that we will touch on as the video continues. But carrying on with the hardware inside this device, I can say that the 2-bay, if you undo the lock on the side, you can remove the front panel. On the inside, we've got those 2 storage bays there straight away for you. And it's worth highlighting that there, even if you put that front panel on there, there's still plenty of ventilation there. Based on the base of the device, we've got ventilation on the sides of the device there, on either side, and you've got that active cooling fan there on the rear. So there's lots going on inside this device. We bring that nice and close to you there. We can see right there the nice glossy front chassis there with that slight charcoal grey front panel, and that's with the LEDs with system information, lots of information about network access and drive activity, and a front mounted USB port there for our backups. Now, talking of backups, as mentioned in previous videos, this device does arrive with support for numerous backup measures. You can create an entire multi-tiered backup strategy here. You can back up NAS to NAS, NAS to other brand NAS. You can back up to another server, back up to multiple cloud services. You can back up to USB. You can back up to other folders within the NAS. You can back up over the internet, over the network, locally or more. What I'm saying is it's a huge multi-tiered backup solution. Now, that is made possible not only because of the hardware architecture, but also because of Hybrid Backup Sync 3. Still the very best backup software I've ever seen from NAS. Synology have got very, very close. You know that brand up there. Look at them. We've left them there in shot, along with the QNAP one and all the other labels. But it's worth highlighting that they've still got the best, most user-friendly multi-tiered backup tool currently on the market today. And if that is what you're buying this for, as a backup, and make sure you're treating your backups right, this could very well be the device for you, either as your primary backup with other backup devices connected, or as adding another tier to your strategy. It's even got software built in with QTS's platform, that graphical user interface for handling virtual JBOD, where you can create an area of storage on this and make it localized appearing to other devices, or hybrid mount that will allow you to use cloud storage or other NAS devices, synchronizing them with localized caching and make them appear local. Now, synchronization and backup are two key things that you should always factor in to a multi-storage system, and QNAP have got different apps to support you there in spades. And it's worth highlighting as well, you've got snapshot backups as well within the device, where you can either use an external device to store your snapshots of the inside of the device and your storage. You've got a time managed backup, or store snapshots internally, which I personally don't recommend. Going back to the inside there, we can say about these trays, the device supports 3.5-inch drive media and 2.5-inch drive media. You don't need a screwdriver. You can just pop a drive straight inside there, pop it in, clip it in either side, and that is 3.5-inch media. 2.5-inch media will need a screwdriver, and there are screws included with the device. Let's have a look in there. And again, if you are buying a NAS storage device, you're thinking long term. Again, we talked about it before, the largest NAS drives you can buy these days are Seagate Ironwolf 16TB, so that's 32 terabytes at the time of filming that you can store inside this device, which is pretty good. And it arrives with a 3-year manufacturer's warranty that can be extended to 5. So there's a lot of long-term abilities there within this. If we remove the trays, and again, you can install a single drive if you choose, or install 2 and utilize different RAID configurations. Watch my video on what RAID is. But inside, we've got another area of upgradability, and that is that L shape you can just see inside the chassis there. That is 2 DDR4 SODIMM slots there. One of them occupied with 4 gig of memory, 2400 megahertz inside there, but you can upgrade it to 8. And this is how one of the many ways in which this device can be scaled over time. So if you are buying it and you're worried that years down the line your utilization is going to grow, you can add bigger drives, you can add more memory, but that's not the end of it. There are more ways to improve this device, because if we look at the rear of it, we can have a look at the ports and connections. Hopefully my light isn't going to ruin it there. Bring that down in an area you can see it a bit better. Now, at the base there, other than the PSU, we've got those 2 LAN ports right there. Now, RJ45 2.5 GBE there. That means that you can have 2.5 gigabit, which is up to 250 megabytes per second, but you can link aggregate them to 5 gigabits per second. So that means up to 500 megabytes per second network transit with the right storage media and the right RAID. And of course, link aggregation thrown in there. You've got to make sure you've got a switch, or at least a 2-port card that supports lag. Now, that extra means of connectivity means that when your internet service provider router or your switches and all your network appliances start moving from 1 GBE to 2.5 GBE, you've got a device that can be scaled up already. It supports 1, but it can move up to 2.5 GBE when you need it. And remember that QNAP has a 5 GBE to USB 3 adapter. So even if your network appliances move up to 5 gigabit Ethernet and moving towards 10, you can add a 5 GBE port to this device if you choose. Now, the USB 3 ports on this device are an area of discussion. Sorry, bring it around that side. Because we have noticed that it is 3 USB 2 ports and 1 USB 3 port there and 1 on the front. Now, USB ports on this device can be utilized in a number of ways. So first and foremost, you can add USB dongles, you can add wireless dongles, you can add the adapters that we've discussed, you can add printers and UPS devices for network monitoring and making non-network devices network accessible. Then you have got USB storage devices such as the QNAP expansions available with hardware RAID and JBOD, all of which can be attached to this in one form or another, as well as PCIe connected cards, card connected expansions too. So it is great they've got the USB ports and expandability, but what I will say is 3 USB 2 ports, because they're only really going to be used for peripheral devices, is a bit much. And given the predecessor had 5 USB 3 ports, it's a bit of a step down, particularly given the early notes that we saw of this device did seemingly indicate there was more USB 3 ports on this device. So moving forward, we've got, bring it around to the right side again, that HDMI port there. Now the HDMI port is 60 frames per second 4K. It is an HDMI 2.0 port, which means if you're going to be watching 4K locally using HD Station, that great port, well then again, watch my software video, you are going to see a lot of output from that port. If you're using it in surveillance, that means more cameras on a single control feed that you can monitor. Again, keyboard, video, mouse for a standalone surveillance solution, all the while with the device being accessed anywhere in the world or over the network with privileged individuals who you give permission to utilize it with the network credentials on this. Now, at the top is one of my other favorite parts about this device, the PCIe upgrade slot. Now, that PCIe upgrade slot is worthy of your attention. It means that much like the other things we've discussed about upgrading the device within its lifespan, this 2-bay, this simple 2-bay, a 2-bay NAS, can have 2.5 GBE ports added, even more so, 5 GBE ports, 10 GBE ports as well. So you can add more network interface ports for your media and increase its network availability to a single directed user or everyone on your local area network on a managed switch. On top of that, you can add M2 SSD caching cards inside there, so you can add a card that will allow you to add 1 or 2 SSDs inside that will help you improve the internal performance of this device. And they could be NVMe or standard SATA SSDs. You can even utilize that SSD media inside for raw storage, so you can create a 2 storage pool system, one with hard drives, one with SSDs, that can be interacted with over 2.5 GBE or by 5 GBE with that adapter. But it's not just that. This device also supports the QM2 series of combo cards. That's 10 GBE and SSD bays as well. So you can have a card that's got NVMe SSD bays and 10 GBE on the rear, which allows you to interact with the NVMEs and edit on them live, and then you can synchronize that storage with the hard drives for distribution. Now, it is worth highlighting, to take advantage of some of those QM2 cards, you need to make sure you've got the right PCIe slot, because otherwise, no matter what you put on that card, there's going to be a bit of a bottleneck at the PCIe. Now, this device arrives with PCIe Gen 2 x4, which should be sufficient to get 1,000 megs out of the card, but it may bottleneck you on certain newer gen NVMe cards that you install on that QM2 card, so do bear that in mind. But for the most part, PCIe Gen 2 x4 still will give you a tremendous amount of bandwidth for both 10 GBE and raw NVMe SSD interactions, not just with caching in the hard drives, which will still be hugely important, but it does allow you a lot of transmission between you and the device. I mean, in terms of noise and power consumption, this is probably going to be slightly more power consuming as a 2-bay than the previous generation and its competitors, but a lot of that is because of a lot of hardware inside. And on top of that, in terms of noise, you're not really going to have much noise from the device. The main noise is going to be coming from the storage media you use. If you go enterprise, you go for your Exos drives or something big, they're going to make a lot of noise. You go higher than 10 TB, helium sealed drives or drives with enormous amount of platter work inside, they're going to produce a lot more hums, a lot more clicks, a lot more vibrations. They do make more noise, and the QNAP can't do a vast amount about that. It will adjust the temperature with the fan at the rear and do more to make sure your system can be as efficient as possible, but a lot of that noise is down to the drives and not the system. Now, am I happy with the device? Certainly. If I owned the 253BE, would I upgrade? I might think about it, to be honest. I might not upgrade if I owned the 253B, but the BE is still a good NAS, but or as future-proof as that might be, it still doesn't have the true future-proofing that this seems to bring to the table, both in terms of greater memory and the ports there on the rear, giving you a lot more for your money. But don't upgrade unless you can claim some money back on that old one, because that's still a lot of money you're putting down. Am I happy with this device? Certainly. I like what QNAP have done here, and once again, they have gone ahead and proven they are still the innovators of this industry. And ultimately, I like this NAS. I'm looking forward to seeing how it compares with the likes of the Synology DS-720 and the Acer Store Nimbus Store 2, but that is for another video. Do stay tuned for my software review of this device, or more the entire 53D series really, and my tutorial series coming very, very soon. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Click like if you've enjoyed this video, click subscribe to learn more, visit the links in the description towards all of my reviews and content around this and all the new NASs out now in summer 2020, and I'll see you next time.